Hi, this is the Unredacted Truth. I'm Sonia. What I'm not is a content creator, if you haven't already noticed. But what I am is a girl with the answers to your Epstein questions, who also tends to do things a little ass backwards. Truth Unredacted, staring at over 20,000 words, files, and documents with my epic ADHD, I definitely became overwhelmed. So I took a break, and now I'm back to fill in the gaps left every day and every week when the pros do the reporting. What you're going to get from me and not the others, maybe ever, is the complete truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God, I am about to give it raw. And if you or anyone you know is left with questions by the end of the week's reporting, like, subscribe, and share so you can always head over to the Unredacted Truth and fill in the missing pieces. Now let's go behind the Epstein Files.
To reveal every name, every abuser, every enabler.
Nowhere, ain't no better with no hair, ain't no sign I can't smoke hair, yeah. Give me the chance and I'll go there, bitch. I said what I said, I'd rather be famous instead. I let all that get to my head, I don't care, I paint the town red. Bitch, I said what I said, I'd rather be famous instead. I let all that get to my head, I don't care, I paint the town red. She the devil, she bad little bitch, she rebel, she fool.
So in this week's document dump is Elon Musk. And while the entire world is focused on whether or not Elon Musk visited the island, what we really need to be talking about and focused on are the victims of a little St. James Sin Island. Because here is the real tea. In 2023, there was a class action suit against the government officials in the U.S. Virgin Islands, including, but not limited to, wait, are you guys ready? Because I'm about to publicly shame. Get your pens, get your paper ready. Okay? Okay. Including but not limited to First Lady Cecile DeJong, Governor John DeJong, Governor Kenneth Mapp, Attorney General Vincent Frazier, Senator Carlton Doe, and now Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett. The Class 5 Jane Does filed a class action suit against them for facilitating Epstein in his ongoing sex trafficking operation by ensuring that Epstein received preferential treatment and unfettered, unmonitored freedom while in the USVI, and by providing Epstein and or companies instruments which further enabled his sex trafficking ring and related crimes. Now, one of those instruments included the invoicing of hush money payments to custom agents and border control as payments for Caribbean drum players on the freaking island. Okay, so back to the lawsuit. The lawsuit alleges that the act of abuse committed by Epstein and certain select friends took place in Jeffrey Epstein New York home located at 9 East 71st Street in New York City. This little merry band of hooligans received numerous substantial payments from Epstein's JP Morgan Chase New York accounts, which was shown in the various filings of U.S. Virgin Islands versus JP Morgan Chase. Okay, now I bet you're wondering what they did and what they got. Okay. First up with this crown of foolery is the First Lady Cecile DeJong, who stayed at one of Epstein's apartments in New York for a month in 2017. That's nearly a decade after Epstein completed his prison sentence for soliciting minors for prostitution. Now you may wonder, why was she there? What was she doing there exactly? She was there to advise and assist him in securing the USVI's cooperation as a safe harbor for his sex trafficking ring. These two were such besties that Epstein's office in Red Hook on St. Thomas had two doors, one that led out to an open courtyard and the other that connected to a freaking office. Around 2003 or 2004, Epstein brought Jane Doe Ford to his office. Warning, this is about to get quite graphic. So, Epstein R-worded this young lady brutally on his desk in his office for 10 minutes, while the First Lady, or should we call her the First Madame, sat at her desk, which was against the exterior wall of Epstein's office, right next up to them, like this. And then, not only that, when they walked out of the door of the room after Epstein was done defiling this poor young girl, to the area where Cecile DeJong was sitting, this cold, heartless thing mean-mugs the victim. She mean-mugged the victim and watched this young lady be taken away by Epstein. The poor girl testified that from where Cecile was sitting when she walked out, there was no way she would not have heard the violent, brutal assault. And yet this thing, the First Lady of the Virgin Islands, did absolutely nothing but stare down this poor girl. So when you ask, why are the victims not mentioning names? Why are they reporting? Maybe it's because heads of state and government officials are in on it. Epstein paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to USVI government entities and officials for over 2 decades, including paying for her children's tuition. You heard that right. Many of Epstein's payments to politicians were advised and directed by USVI's First Lady, Cecile DeJong. She bought loyalty and access among politicians for Epstein. Epstein also freely loaned her family money. In 2015, her husband, former Governor DeJong, was arrested on charges of using $500,000 of public money to improve his or their private family home. Now, he resolved this case by paying a settlement of $380,000 without admitting wrongdoing, of which $215,000 of that settlement money came straight from Epstein. Now, Cecile also suggested that Epstein put Senator Celestino White on a monthly retainer to obtain government loyalty and access. Fun fact about Mr. White: in 2023, as U.S. Virgin Islands was coming after Epstein's estate and J.P. Morgan Chase, J.P. Morgan filed a motion for an order authorizing alternative services of a subpoena because Mr. Senator Celestino White just kept running and dodging them. So according to the bank, Mr. White was integral to the case as an 11-term senator in the Virgin Islands legislature and as a current member of Virgin Islands Port Authority Board. I mean, they probably just wanted to know what Jeffrey Epstein was keeping him on retainer for and why the Port Authority needed so many damn Caribbean drum players on the island. But anyway, guys, now park her up because it's about to get tangy. Because at the same time this was happening, Elon Lonely Man Mr. Musk was one of many named that the USVI government wanted subpoenaed concerning their dealings with Epstein.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk has been subpoenaed by the US Virgin Islands. The American territory wants Musk to hand over documents relating to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It's all part of the lawsuit the Virgin Islands has lodged against JP Morgan.
Now, the other people listed on that list included Les Wexner. Everyone's talking about him probably because he's 88 now. The billionaire founder of Victoria's Secret. Google co-founder Larry Page, who Daddy Trump just spanked for $24 million. And NPA benefactor, free at large, one-time right-hand woman and co-conspirator Sarah Kellen. In the motion, USVI was asking Elon Musk for the following documents. Everything regarding communications between him and JP Morgan, regarding Epstein or Epstein's role with respect to his accounts, transactions, or financial management. All communications between Musk and Epstein regarding his accounts, transactions, or relationship at JP Morgan. Reflecting or regarding fees Musk had paid to Epstein and or JP Morgan in connection with his accounts, transaction, or relationship at JP Morgan. And lastly, reflecting or regarding Epstein's involvement in human trafficking and or the procurement of girls and women for commercial sex. So open call to action. Dear Mr. Musk, don't just talk about it, be about it. Reveal all the Epstein files have to do with that's connected to you. Now let's move on to the lovely Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett of the Democratic Party. Well, at the time, she was just Stacey Plaskett, an attorney with Epstein's longtime law firm, Kellers, Ferguson, Croblin, LLC. Now, Plaskett visited Epstein at his New York home, where he loaned the now Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett $30,000 to support her political campaign. She also returned to ask for an additional $30,000 contribution to the Democratic National Committee. Now, the DNC did ultimately totally decline it because, well, Epstein failed their vetting. But what I wonder is, do Republicans have similar vetting? Anyhow, so if you're wondering why Jeffrey Epstein was so generous to Congresswoman Plaskett for her campaign, well, it's because when she was the attorney for the EDC, Economic Development Commission in USVI, they approved $300,000 in tax breaks for Epstein's companies. Now we're going to move on to Governor Kenneth Mapp, USVI's governor from 2015 to 2019. This one asked Epstein to assist them in developing a means for the EDC beneficiaries to repatriate their income to make USVI's program more attractive. And actually, it was one of Epstein's lawyers that actually drafted that proposed legislator for the governor, as seen in Exhibit A. Epstein worked with him on a plan to secure a cash loan of $50 million. Okay. Now back to the only ones that actually matter with the whole thing is the victims. So between 2001 and 2019, these poor girls were trafficked and abused between New York, Florida, U.S. Virgin Islands, and around the world. Jane Doe was trafficked from 2001 to 2019. Jane Doe 2 was trafficked from 2015 to 2019. Jane Doe 3, 2015 to 2019. 4 was from 2001 to 2009. And Jane Doe 5 was from 2001 to 2009. Now, Jeffrey Epstein had a strict no black girls policy. And these Jane Does and many of the other girls were from New York. Epstein would transport them back and forth from New York to the Virgin Islands, where they were held captive and abused. Unable to escape. Why? Because Epstein's sex trafficking ring used USVI's laws, agents, and agencies. These dirty officials would not only help with arranging the massage appointments, but then they would also help trap these poor girls on the island until Jeffrey Epstein gave permission for them to leave. Here's an example. Jane Doe 2 and Jane Doe 3 say that Epstein, together with the defendants and their agents, smuggled them into USVI with expired visas so they could be trafficked, abused, assaulted, and battered by Epstein. Not only that, another lovely perk for Epstein was that he got to provide input into the sex offender monitoring legislation in the USVI. In 2011, let me tell you, Cecile does not quit. First Lady Cecile DeJong solicited Epstein's input on USVI's pending sex offender monitoring legislation and shared draft language from the DOJ with Epstein, writing to him, asking a convicted pedophile, "This is the suggested language. Will it work for you?" Epstein then responded with directions on how to loosen the restrictions. In particular, he was concerned that the proposed bill as is included a 21-day notice requirement, which would prevent him and his perverted friends from coming and going as he freely wanted. The First Madame responded to this by saying to him, as Attorney General Vincent Fraser, okay, I'll stop the voice, but this is what her response was. As Attorney General Vincent Fraser had a deadline to submit the legislation, they had to develop the language that would address Epstein's concerns by Thursday because the governor would be traveling for a week. And then added, we will work with then attorney Vincent Fraser to give you, being Epstein, discretion for status quo because, I quote, that is the least they can do. Least they can do for what, Cecile? What were you doing it for, Vincent? And then this dude, Vincent Frazier, promptly provided Epstein with a waiver of the 21-day prior notice requirement. This beat did a lot. We're going to look at the entire USV cases next time, but trust me, they are freaking juicy. But now, I want to quickly pivot to Trump versus America. And on this week's ballot is a settlement you probably heard of by now, which is Trump versus YouTube.
President Trump scoring more than $24 million in a YouTube settlement after the platform suspended his account back in 2021. Trump's team argued that the ban violated his First Amendment rights.
So, apparently, that's apparently because it's fact, not allegedly, right? Anyway, the parties, being Donald Trump as the plaintiff, agreed to settle and dismiss the case with prejudice. YouTube will be paying for your much more wealthier President Donald J. Trump $24,500,000. This is the craziest part though. So $22 million of that has been directed by DJT to a tax-exempt entity dedicated to restoring and supporting construction of the White House ballroom. Tax evasion 101. That 24-karat ballroom is coming directly from Daddy YouTube. Like, this is straight out of How to Be an African Dictator 101. I mean, like, he's even decorating like one, and he's remodeling the White House. Like, he intends to stay for a while. The people out there wondering about ICE, the militarization of Portland and Washington, the United States, and its future. I want to leave you with this juicy text message between Tom Homan and the Texas State Governor's Office. Closing now with a moment of silence for democracy in the USA, inviting you all to please like, share, and subscribe.